Hello, future STEAM professionals, and welcome to another STEAM Team Spotlight. We know that early exposure to different STEAM careers is critical for students to aspire to one day hold these jobs. After all, if you can't see it, you can't be it. In today's distance learning reality, those opportunities for exposure are scarce. So the San Diego Festival of Science and Engineering and California STEAM Industries are committed to supporting our students, teachers, and parents by providing impactful educational experiences and exposure to STEAM careers in our state. Thanks for joining, and let's get started. Please introduce yourself.
So my name is Paul Anderson. I'm a senior research scientist at Eli Lilly in the Lilly Biotechnology Center in La Jolla, California. I joined Lilly a couple years ago from Novartis, where I spent about 12 years, and my field is automation engineering. So I help design large robotic systems that help for biologics drug discovery.
How did you get into this field, and why did it interest you?
So I mean, coming out of high school, I was interested in math and science, and so I applied to an engineering program at UC Santa Barbara. Sorry, we're in San Diego, so I was kind of default to San Diego. But I went to UC Santa Barbara as a chemical engineer, and that was quite interesting. There's a lot of there's a number of different like subspecialties within chemical engineering, and so I've been exposed to the oil and gas industry through my studies, and ended up doing an internship at a Shell oil refinery, and then had offers and such from Chevron. And I was in doing the internship, I kind of recognized that I kind of wanted to shift more to a biology focus, and so then I went to graduate school for biomedical engineering, got my master's a couple years later. And then I applied to several jobs. My wife, she's a physical therapist and finished school a year early, or 8 months earlier. And we decided to move to San Diego. She's from Southern California. I'm from the Bay Area. And so we definitely want to go to California. It's kind of, California, Boston, the big biotech hubs. And so we decided to move here, and then I applied for jobs and got a job at Novartis doing automation and high throughput screening. So big robotic platforms using the same types of robots you see in auto manufacturing assembly lines, where they're moving pieces around and doing welding. And so it was quite interesting. We built a lot of systems, and they have a unique model where they build robotic systems. They have a whole suite of engineers there to build robotic systems for themselves, as well as sell them to their competitors. So several large pharma and some of the large institutes around the world have those type of systems. And so I moved a couple years ago to Eli Lilly, and we're in a little bit different space in that we don't have the team of engineers to basically design and build anything from scratch here. So we've partnered with a lot of great companies. And so it's just kind of stepping stones from getting into the field, gaining some interest and learning about it for several years, and then looking for other opportunities in another company to kind of expand their career.
What is something you enjoy about getting to work in this field?
I love seeing the technology development. So I worked in the oil and gas industry, and it was fascinating. But being in this type of industry, the biotech pharmaceutical world, I've been working for about 15 years after school now. And so it's really amazing to see every few years there's just like a big like technology like advance forward. And there's just such big advances, and that we all pivot and adapt and start jumping on the latest, greatest technologies to kind of open up a whole new area of either druggable targets or discovery technologies to be able to find new drugs. So it's really awesome to be in such a evolving, innovative place. It doesn't ever seem boring. So it's kind of fun. And in the automation space, there's companies out there that have mobile robots. So we work in a lab where we have lots of what we call islands of automation. So there are small robotic workstations placed throughout the lab, and we're thinking about ways to connect those. And there's mobile robots, essentially like a robot on a Roomba that moves around and moving plates and samples from station to station. And I've even seen a presentation or two and talked to some people about some grants about drones in the lab to be able to do a similar thing as the robots. So seeing what we're doing now, it's it's almost tough to imagine what the labs might look like in 5 years with voice activated controls, mobile robotic systems, and the things that are coming out in the automation space are really just amazing.
Yeah, that's a lot of changes. It changes really quickly too. That's what
Yeah.
in the last 5 years especially.
Mhm.
What does your company do and what problem does it solve?
So Eli Lilly is a large pharmaceutical company, and so I think we're one of the oldest, founded in the late 1800s. So we're a 140 plus year company. There's a lot of pharma that have merged and grown over time, and there's much younger companies, but we've had staying power for over a century. So it's a company that's changed as times have changed, and they've jumped on the latest greatest technologies, and they look for things that we can really help solve or help improve quality of life for diseases. So what I specifically do here is work in the biologics discovery space. So largely there's kind of I would say two camps of drugs out there. There are small molecules. So these are chemicals with chemists that are synthesizing molecules. You have medicinal chemists that will look at families of structures and make lots of variations. We work in the biologics discovery, and there are several different platforms to use for biologics discovery, and we largely work about antibody discovery. So we use uh, animal models, or in the recent partnership with Abcelera for COVID-19, we're using human samples, and basically uh, using animals or human samples to find cells within species that are eliciting, developing an antibody against something that we want to target. For COVID-19, it would be developing an antibody against COVID-19 virus. And so we're able to take those samples and then chop out the DNA, then make more and lots of DNA, and then express a lot of samples and then test these and improve them and go through what we call some antibody engineering experiments and looking at all the properties of these antibodies to find what the lead molecules might end up being, and to improve a lot of characteristics for these molecules. And so we work on the automation space for those type of molecules.
Describe your current job in 3 words.
I know I've been a bit long-winded. I mean, automation would be one of them. That's central to what I do. Innovation, we're always looking to improve things, efficiency, higher throughput. Um, and then the third one would be collaboration. So as an automation engineer, we have to work with all the scientists to be able to understand what they do, and then to kind of blow the roof off throughput or efficiencies and things like that. So that's the whole point of automation, is to be more reliable, more consistent, and then higher numbers, cast a broader net.
What are 2 top skills you use in your current job?
I would say number one, especially in the last 6 months, is communication. So we have a lot of very bright, scientifically minded folks here, and it's really the people that are most successful are the ones that are able to not only understand the science, but be able to communicate effectively across a broad swath of people. So you have automation folks, you have biologists, you have protein scientists, and you have people that run the gambit of expertise. And the people that can communicate across all those folks are very successful. So communication for sure. And then open-mindedness. So I would say the people that uh, you know are always latching on to the latest things and never get set in their ways, and keep an open mind with the stuff that they're doing, and always looking for ways to improve what they're doing. Those people are really great to work with, because they're the early adopters. They're willing to try new stuff, and really take those ideas that are out there floating around the world and be able to bring them in here and elevate what we're doing.
Provide a brief snapshot of your typical day at work.
Uh, we have a lot of automated systems, and so sometimes we're putting out fires. We had a power outage this weekend, so it's trying to fix a few devices that were having some trouble out of from those as a result of those power outage. And oftentimes it's helping people set up new methods on systems, and then we're actively building new systems. So I'm working with several other like vendors, third-party companies to design and basically step our way through these projects to getting them implemented. So I have some that have wrapped up, some that are we're trying to really close to the finish line and almost ready to release it to our scientists, and then some that are several months further out that we're still scoping out the projects.
What makes your job cool?
I think it's fun because anyone that comes to our site or tours our facility, they're always coming to the automation. You see all these big robotic systems moving plates around and actively working on drug discovery. And so I think just the visuals of what we do are pretty fascinating to watch. Like we've installed 24 cameras throughout our lab, and so I have a screen up where I can see everything running at once, and I can give remote tours if needed to folks too. And it's kind of cool to be able to see the science in action.
What are you passionate about, and how have you been able to incorporate your passions into your day and your job?
Uh, I'm really passionate about being on the forefront of science and technology and what's out there. So, I really want to be the early adopters for some of the latest, greatest stuff that fits into what we do at Eli Lilly. And so I love learning about the new technologies, a lot of the startups, and the ideas that are coming out there, and finding ways to incorporate those ideas into our lab to improve what we're doing and how efficient we are, and to kind of open up new doors for our scientists to do things in a better way than we were doing yesterday.
What advice would you give to students who are interested in your field or other STEAM fields?
Yeah, I would say follow what you're interested in. It's hard when you're that young, because it's great you have programs like this that get people exposure to new things. So when I was in high school and even through college, you could work with your professors or to volunteer in the labs and start gaining exposure to different areas and finding what you like and what you don't like, and then you can really take the bull by the horns and steer your own career path. And so I don't have a lot of family connections. I don't have anyone in my parents or siblings, anyone in the STEAM fields really. So that's not necessarily an excuse for anyone who's not interested in it to stop. So the kind of there's tons of opportunities out there. You just have to really pursue it. So I would say never be settled or rest on your laurels. You want to always actively pursue it. And the people in my group too, if we have lots of discussions on where you want to take your career and what kind of things do you want to work on. And so I'm more than happy to help folks get there, but I need them to be able to identify what they want to do, figure out what they're passionate about, and then we'll work that into a career development plan. People just have to take the initiative and have some direction with what they want to do. And if they don't necessarily have that direction, explore for a while.
I think trying things out and taking risks is really helpful, especially
Yeah,
when you're figuring everything out. Yeah, and doing stuff that you're not necessarily interested in at first, just trying it
yeah.
out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
internships, things like that, even volunteering. I mean, there's all kinds of things. When I was looking for jobs before, you just go on Google Earth and Google Maps and look for the biotechs around there. And then, there's so many that you have no idea within a small vicinity, especially in Southern California and San Diego. Like you could find 100 different companies that you would probably never hear of otherwise. But clicking on their websites, looking at their careers page, looking at opportunities. If you don't have a big network, that's a decent way to just kind of hit the pavement and start looking.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving your advice and for talking to me today. It's been really interesting to know about your field because I haven't learned too much about automation before. Yeah, so
Oh, no
it's
problem.
it's been really interesting, and thank you for taking your time, and yeah, that's it
Yeah,
for today.
no problem. Thanks for having me.